Good evening. It is the battle of the white paper versus the black paper. The NDA has issued a white paper on what it calls the dire straits in which 10 years of the UPA had left the Indian economy. It also is a comparison of not just the macroeconomic numbers, GDP, inflation, jobs, etc., between the two regimes, between 2004 and 14 and 14 and 24. But it's also a full basket of how welfare schemes have been better targeted under the NDA. That's the claim of the white paper. Preempting this, the Congress party today launched what it called a black paper, in which it claims there was a collection of the economic mismanagement under the Modi rule. Now, in this battle of black and white, who ran the economy better? The NDA between 2014 and 24 or the UPA between 2004 and 14?
तो 11 MLAs को 10 साल में उन्होंने अपने तरफ लिया। अब मैं ये नहीं कहता कितना पैसा दे तो खरीदे क्या करे वो नहीं, लेकिन आपको तो मालूम है कितने सरकारें हमारे इलेक्टेड थे, जैसा कि मध्य प्रदेश, कर्नाटक, मणिपुर, गोवा, उत्तराखंड, ये सब आप जानते हैं। अब ये लोग डराने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। ठीक है, डराने दो। तो ये चाहते हैं कि जनता की भलाई के लिए इन्हों जो काम करना चाहिए वो काम नहीं हुआ, इसीलिए ये हमारा ब्लैक पेपर हम आपको प्रेजेंट करें।
आज देश पिछले 10 साल में समृद्धि के नए नए शिखर सर कर रहा है। एक भव्य दिव्य वातावरण बना है, उसको नजर न लग जाए, इसलिए काला टीका करने का एक प्रयास हुआ है। मैं उसके लिए भी खड़गे जी का बहुत धन्यवाद करता हूं, ताकि इस हमारी प्रगति की यात्रा को कोई नजर न लग जाए। ये नजर न लग जाए, इसलिए आपने आज जो काला टीका किया है।
All right, so who wins the economy war? There is the politics and the surround sound around it, and there is, of course, the hard numbers. We'll analyze both in great detail through the course of this program. Narendra, Taneja, leader of the BJP, joining us. Salman Soz is national spokesperson of the Congress party. Shekhar Iyer, senior journalist, and Prashanjit Bose, economist, also on the broadcast this evening. Let me start with you, Narendra, Taneja. The big headline comparison, straight up apples to apples, between UPA 2004 to 14 and NDA 2014 to 24. Headline GDP comparison is that under the UPA, 10 years, it was 6.8%. Under the NDA, it is 5.9%. What is your defense? What is your argument against that?
Honestly, I mean, there is no comparison. What India has seen, the world has seen the last 10 years under Prime Minister Modi's leadership is unprecedented. From Fragile 5, you will remember Fragile 5, that used to be, on Financial Times, Wall Street Journal, practically all pink newspapers around the world. From Fragile 5, India has become now the strongest 5. That's what it is. So when I say that, you can imagine in just 10 years, we have come such a long way, and the fruits of that, the fruits of economic development are there for everybody to see. You travel from north to south, just please travel. Go from east to west. You see growth, you see development, you see infrastructure development, you see smile, you see new plans all across the country. That's what we have managed. And just to give you, since you are talking of numbers, what was our GDP? Less than 2 trillion. We are close to 4 trillion now. In terms of, for instance, when you come at the foreign exchange reserves, from where to where? In fact, what we left behind in NDA 1, they actually brought down foreign exchange reserves even below that. So the reason, everybody knows that the reasons were very simple. There was no cockpit in the economic India when they were in power. Dr. Manmohan Singh, with all due respect to him, but the problem is there was a super prime minister. There was a Chota Prime Minister, and there was a Prime Minister who was challenged every day. That was the situation. Okay. Imagine a country of India's size without economic cockpit because captains were somewhere else. And then who does know about scams, scandals, and everything that used to be in newspapers, not only India, across the world? They destroyed the image of India.
Okay.
They did such great disservice to the country. What we have done in last 10 years, Zaka, we have brought where. And just quickly, you may wonder, why didn't we bring out the white paper, let's say in 2015-16? You know the reason? Because they had done so much of damage. We didn't want to talk about that in front of the whole world. Our duty was first to repair, to bring India back.
So
and
let me ask,
now we are sharing this with the people.
Salman Soz of the Congress Party, one big attack point you have two essentially against the NDA government, economically speaking. One is on jobs, the other is on inflation. But if you look at the inflation figures, 10 years of UPA, the average inflation was 8.1%. 10 years of NDA, it is 5.4%. It is under the 6% bracket where the RBI wants it to be. So as per the 10-year average data itself, your one big attack plank against the NDA fails.
There's not one attack point or two. There is so much that one can talk about, and I'm happy to talk about it. And I will also hopefully get a few points across to Taneja ji. The big thing that matters is not just economic growth. What matters is per capita income. What has happened to per capita income growth in India? Because we only have 9 years of data for Prime Minister Modi's 2 tenures. 180% was the per capita income growth under Dr. Manmohan Singh's first 9 years. 180%. Taneja ji, please listen. 180%. Compare that to Prime Minister Modi's first 9 years of 58% per capita income growth. The big thing that we keep talking about is jobs. No country can create jobs without investment. And what was the investment ratio for the country when Prime Minister Manmohan Singh was there? 34%. What is it right now? The average for these 9 years is 29%. In fact, you might be interested to know, Zaka, that the highest ratio achieved under Prime Minister under Modi ji, highest investment ratio under Modi ji is lower than the lowest investment ratio under Prime Minister Manmohan Singh. Okay, please do not tell us about the economy. Then talk about exports. The export ratios of the UPA 9 years better than the export ratios of Prime Minister Modi's 9 years. Okay, foreign direct investment as a ratio of GDP far better under Prime Minister Manmohan Singh than under Prime Minister Modi. If you want economics, if you want to compare on economics,
there are
that's what we're
numbers,
doing.
and there are numbers, and there are statistics.
What do you mean there are numbers?
Once again, for foreign exchange reserves, when UPA demitted office was under $350 billion. Foreign exchange reserves right now is over $600 billion.
Very good, very good. I'm glad you mentioned that, Zaka. Now, let me tell you. Nobody looks at absolute numbers. What you have to look at is what is it as a share of the economy. If you can show me that the foreign exchange reserves now are higher than they were under Prime Minister Manmohan Singh as a share of the economy, I'll resign now.
Taneja, respond. I need to move from the headline figures to some of the other things that I mentioned in the white paper about targeted sort of schemes for the poor. But Taneja, please respond to that. On the jobs figure particularly, the UPA, the India Alliance keeps attacking you.
They can't say anything on jobs.
They are saying average jobless rate for 10 years of UPA was under 3%. I think 2.59 was the highest in the 10 years of UPA. Under NDA, the highest jobless rate was 6.6% in 21-22.
You see, the point is, look, I mean, all the data that, my friend is talking about, Salman Soz, you see, how are you calculating, let's say, per capita? You take the GDP, you take the population, you go for the division, right? Have you included in that support in terms of food that we are giving to the ordinary people, those who are vulnerable, those who need, number one? Direct transfer, have you included that? Have you included, for instance, the kind of subsidy and the supports that we have not done that? And if you have done that, which state you're talking about? Number two, the point is, Salman Soz, you are a World Bank trained economist. When the entire world, newspapers like Financial Times, Wall Street, they all say India fragile 5. You think they know nothing about economics? They think they were ignoring the numbers and the facts you are talking about. No, the fact is we were fragile five. We can have a discussion for endless discussion on that. Look at the banking. The banking, the state of the India's banking was so bad. From there, when people didn't want to, people were not sure about their money in fixed deposit in the bank. From there, today one of the India's bank is among the top 10 in the world. In just less than 10 years, we have done that. The telephone system, where the phone call will go and the money will start flowing into the account of the people who would run away later. That's what you did. We can have an endless discussion on that. The point is come from fragile five to strongest five. You think fragile five was wrong?
Let me open it up to the other two guests also. They've been waiting patiently, Shekhar Iyer and to Prashanjit Bose. Shekhar Iyer, I don't think headline GDP numbers or inflation numbers, frankly, even win elections. What wins elections is a perception and whether there is tangible work on the ground amongst the poor. And here in the white paper, the BJP's claim, the NDA's claim is their targeted sort of programs for the poor have delivered much more bang for the buck than what it did under the UPA. Now, I want to quote from the white paper, affordable housing, rural affordable housing, 2003 to 14, 2.1 crore. 2016 to 24, 2.6 crore. Construction of toilets, and Swachh Bharat is a big flagship program of the Modi government. 2011 to 14, that's 3 years, 1.8 crore toilets constructed. 14 to 24, 11.5 crore toilets constructed. Minimum zero balance bank accounts, Jan Dhan accounts, again a flagship for the Modi government. 2005 to 12, 10.3 crore accounts. 2014 to 24, 51 crore accounts. Now, the point being that when it comes to targeted, whether it is welfareism, subsidies, or just building houses and toilets for the poor, the NDA's record, at least from the white paper, seems to be far better than that of the UPA. And this is what they are saying, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. Is this something that translates into reality on the ground? And does this explain why the BJP wins elections after elections?
Indeed, Zaka, the sense today, what is the sense of the mood of the people today? Is there more hope or there is more despair? And the idea of this whole white paper is just as a point of argument, because the Congress is going to the polls saying that things have gone to dogs. And the whole idea beginning this paper is to tell people, lest you forget what was the situation between 2004 and 2014. If things were so bright as Congress feels today, there should not have been a change of government. The Prime Minister Modi should not have come to power at all. That is one. Number two is this government faced one of the worst crises that any government has faced before. That is the COVID period. Now, there are people who feel in the government, even the Prime Minister feels, if the challenge of the COVID had not been there, if 3 years had not been lost, because those 3 years were very difficult years, and those years required the government to carefully spend each pie or each rupee, I would say. And Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman was under tremendous pressure just to open up the treasury. And there was so much pressure, but still she held on, Prime Minister held on, and there were packages, special packages for specific sectors, all that have seemed to have given result today. That is the reason why in sector after sector, the mood is of hope, the mood is of positivity. And also you mentioned about the targeted. That's a fact. Otherwise, on the ground, the sense of confidence that Prime Minister sees when he talks of a greater mandate coming in 2024 is largely because of those deliverables. Without those deliveries, I don't think they would have won elections again in Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand, or Goa in many states.
Okay.
Because you cannot win election on ideology. At least poor don't vote on ideology. They see what has tangibly happened. And Congress knows those tangibles are giving that thumbs up to the BJP.
So let me ask Prashanjit Bose, one other data point, I think both UPA and NDA have been citing this, is gross NPAs. Gross NPAs rose manifold at the fag end of the UPA era, and it went all the way up to almost 9 lakh crores plus in the first term of the NDA. Today, because of the Banking and Insolvency Code, the NDA's claim is NPAs have come down to under 3 lakh crores. I think about 2.5, 2.6 lakh crores. This again, they say, is one of the successes of the IBC, the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, something that was a ballooning problem under the UPA. Prashant Bose, you have to unmute yourself, please. I think you're on mute.
If this is what the government is claiming, then this goes contrary to what its own reports, the Reserve Bank of India's own reports on this issue has to say. The NPA accumulation that had happened, it has come down, the stock of gross NPAs have come down. It is still, the number is over 5 lakh crore, but it has come down from those huge peaks, mainly on account of write-offs of NPAs and not because of the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. If you look at the haircut ratio, how much of claims are being admitted to the IBC and finally what the resolution is, huge losses are being made by the creditors through the IBC process, and the IBC itself has to, it has to actually undergo a lot of improvement. But the main point is that if you look at the headline numbers, over 15 lakh crore of NPAs have been just written off the books of the banks, out of which...
No, I accept the write-off point, but how do you explain the health of banks? The health of PSU banks today is far better than when UPA demitted office in 13-14.
No, rather.
SBI, the country's biggest public sector bank, has made the largest profit in its known history in the last quarter.
Let me put it this way. Today the SBI is making profit. You look at the SBI's balance sheets over the past 5 years. What was the SBI's losses in 2017, 2018, 2019? They went into the red. The entire public sector banking went into the red. That was because of those NPA write-offs. And because of those, and I'm telling you, the PSB write-offs itself, the PSB write-off is over 10 lakh crore. It's not a small matter. Now, the government, through the taxpayers' money, has recapitalized those banks of 3 lakh crore. And now, if you look at that burgeoning debt of the government, out of that, over 2 lakh crore is because of those recapitalization bonds.
Okay.
You and me today
let me go back to Salman Soz and Narendra Taneja. Salman Soz, I come back to this point. You look at the headline numbers, even in this budget, in this vote on account that was passed some days ago. The capital expenditure allocation is 11 lakh crores. When the UPA demitted office, capital expenditure was just a little over 3 lakh crores. It's a more than 3 times increase, almost 4 times increase in capital expenditure. Fiscal deficit, at least the glide path that the finance minister has given, 5.8 for this year. She will meet the target, she says, of 4.5% by 25-26. And of course, you have to take into account 2 years of COVID, which was an unprecedented, was a black swan event. So the things that matter to the state of the economy, that good money is being spent on infrastructure spending, capital expenditure, and that despite that, fiscal deficit is being brought under control. That is not something that the UPA could show when it demitted office. We all remember the currency crisis in 13-14 and how it led to a burgeoning current account deficit.
Zaka, first, I have to respond to Taneja ji's. I will respond to your question too. It was a long question, so I will respond. But Taneja ji keeps talking about the fragile 5 countries that I think it was Goldman Sachs or somebody who came up with that formulation. The time that the Goldman Sachs wrote that report, India's economy was growing at 5.5%. That was in the aftermath of the global financial crisis, which was a huge, huge crisis. Okay? Now, we didn't call India fragile 5 when in 2019, India's growth rate before COVID was 3.9%. 3.9% before COVID. Okay? And by the way, the BJP is very keen to get foreign banks and others to say, oh, the UPA time there was fragility, but they don't listen to the Global Hunger Index, where India is ranked 107th. And these people tom-tom the idea of food security. This is the party, the BJP, that opposed us tooth and nail when we brought out brought the Food Security Act to this country. When the National Food Security Act was passed in Parliament, BJP was vehemently opposed. Then they kept quiet.
But
They say,
Salman,
oh,
answer
look,
the
we're
question
giving
I
people-
asked you,
Wait a
please.
minute.
Salman.
I'm going to, yes, on that question, on your question on capital expenditures, they're increasing capital expenditures. Frankly, if it was me, I would not go that way. Why? Because their capital expenditures are going to enrich some big corporates, but they're not going to create jobs. And let me tell you, Zaka, who is financing these capital expenditures? How are they financing it? Now, you and we are middle class families, all of us here, maybe. In India, corporation taxes are now lower than income taxes. We have income tax collections are higher, corporate tax collections are lower. And GST, 50%, the bottom 50% is paying 65% of GST. This is robbery from the poor to give to the rich.
Narendra
That is what BJP
respond
has
to
done
that.
to
This
this
is again a
country.
consistent attack from the opposition
No,
that
no,
inequality in India has gone up. The top 10% is making far more money than the bottom 60%. That the Gini coefficient
They can't answer because
ballooned
they are the rich.
under
They're the rich
10
people,
years
they
of
can't
NDA
answer.
compared to 10 years of UPA. How do you respond to the income inequality argument being put forth by the opposition?
I'll answer your question, Zaka. You see, when global institutions say something when these guys were in power, then they would, go and parrot it like, 24/7. Now that they are not in power, if they say something, they question the same organizations. Fragile Five, are you questioning that? The entire world was saying that. And the second point I want to make is that, when you talk of growing inequality, there is no growing inequality. You have to travel across the country. You just, for instance, yes, when you say that, we are encouraging, there are people who are coming out, there are millions of, 25 crore people have come out of poverty. You saw the data recently, multidimensional. The same is happening across the board. Look, you were in power. If today the country is suffering in terms of poverty because for long 55 years, you practiced an ideology which is irrelevant, which has been rejected by every single country except North Korea. That is the reason we are still paying the price and we are fixing the problem. But look, Salman Sood, for the people of the country, economy is what? Economy is that 67% people were kept out of the banking system. That was the banking apartheid you practiced. We have brought this card and account to every single Indian. We ended, banking apartheid that you practiced and you introduced. Toilets, such a basic thing. For you didn't even want to talk about it because that was below your step, below your class.
Okay.
We did that. Prime Minister talked about building toilet from the rampart of the Red Fort. That's what we did. Third, imagine 11 crore people, the ordinary people, the poor people, the middle class, they were kept out of the, affordable fuel. 11 crore people have access to now LPG. And I can just go on. Salman Sood, you are in the wrong party.
No, but Taneja ji, before I go to Prasenjit Bose, what about you? Since you mentioned LPG, what about oil prices? I mean, oil is under. I asked this to Hardeep Singh Puri, also the minister. Oil is under $80 a barrel. Why are we still paying close to 100 rupees at the petrol pump? This is a argument against your government.
So high.
Let me answer.
Why are LPG
Very
prices
simple.
so high?
When we have to mobilize and go for Ujjwala scheme, and lots of the entire scheme is heavily subsidized as you know it. Where would the money come from? Number two, at the same time, we have to make sure that an environment is taken care of because we have signed the Paris Protocol. Where would the money come for this transition, for this transformation? Number three, the balance sheet of the very same company where they were in power. They passed on to us. The balance sheet was very bad. Today, look at the balance sheet. Point here is that people have, that's the reason, Zaka. People are not protesting. Congress is instigating, but people are still comfortable.
Okay.
They are not protesting because there is transparency, there is honesty, and there is integrity, and they believe in this government. That's the most important.
If as Salman Sood says, corporate taxes are lower than income taxes, in absolute percentages they might be, at least at the top end of the income tax bracket. But the fact remains that the number of IT returnees has increased manifold. I think in the last budget, what the finance minister said was 8 crore returnees. The collection, both direct taxes and indirect taxes, are at record levels. If people are not making more income, not making more money, then how are taxes going up?
I think that I don't know how you are looking at this direct taxes thing. It's a fact that the tax base, the income tax base has expanded, But on the other hand, how can we forget that there was a very sharp cut in the corporate tax rate before the COVID recession came, and the reason why today the fiscal deficit has reached to the level it has is because of that tax giveaway. Without any reason, what has it led to? Where
No,
is
but
that
direct
private
tax
investment?
collections at the end of last financial is 16 lakh
No,
crores.
that is the whole
When
point
UPA
which the
demitted
Congress
office, it was 6
spokesperson-
lakh
listen,
crores. What
listen,
explains that?
That is precisely what the Congress spokesperson has correctly mentioned. That the tax collection has come more from the middle class income taxpayers than from the big corporates who can pay more. They are taking
Where are
more
they
and more
getting
money
money
away.
from?
This is how
Where are
inequality
they
is
getting money
increasing.
from? The
No,
middle
no.
You are
class.
taxing the middle
Salman
class.
said in his
Where are they
previous
getting money
answer,
from?
income
Because the economy
inequality.
is expanding.
60% of the
So this is the reason
population
your tax policies are
is sitting at the
responsible
bottom
for
of the
income
pyramid.
inequality.
That's what he said in the previous
And
answer.
the government's tax
I'm
policy-
citing data that the increase in direct tax collections in the last 10 years is 16 lakh crores when NDA is demitting office
Zaka,
and 6
listen.
lakh crores when UPA demitted office.
Zaka, I
Where is
know
the extra
all those
10 lakh
figures.
crores
You
coming
please-
from?
You please understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
There are two kinds of direct taxes. One is income tax, which
Of course.
you and I and most middle class people pay. The other kind of direct tax is the corporate tax,
Yes,
which the
yes.
big corporates pay. So what the Congress spokesperson said, and I am also saying, which is borne out by the data, that the share of income tax in direct taxes has grown, the share of corporate taxes in direct taxes has come down.
Okay.
This is owned by the government.
I'll give Shekhar the final word.
Can you kindly allow me one more, just one
Quickly,
more minute?
Prashanjit. I need to wrap up. Yeah.
I think that a lot of this, black paper, white paper, all this is happening, and berating a government which was there 10 years back is precisely because this government wants to shy away from a very simple fact. You look at the public debt GDP ratio of our country, where it was when Vajpayee government went, where it was when Manmohan Singh government went, and where it is today. It came down from almost, if you look at the central government public debt only, it came down from 65% to 50%, and now it is back over 60%. Why?
Okay.
It shows the story.
Shekhar, I'll give you the
Because
final word.
private
Shekhar, I want to
investment
get
has not
to a
given
moot
to the
point.
growth process
If
under this government.
the health of the economy is as rosy and pink as the government claims it is, then why are enough jobs not getting created? Because I think
Yes.
that is a tangible thing that is probably even a
Yes.
vote determinant. Shekhar.
Definitely, Zaka, the job sector is an area where, for various reasons, the government has not been able to achieve which it wished to achieve. And there may be difficulty in acknowledging this, but in the years to come, as we move forward after this 2024 elections, one is bound to see a lot of improvement on this sector. There are already signs that the jobs are opening up, and the mood is not so dark as one normally thinks it is. But the other problem is we need to have people who are employable, whose skills are upgraded.
yeah.
Those are the challenges.
Okay.
Those challenges are bigger than a general numbers about jobs falling or jobs not happening.
All right, we'll leave it at that. I want to thank all our guests. Like I said, I don't think this is a black paper versus white paper situation, particularly when it comes to economic numbers. The situation, as they say, is somewhere in the gray. Thank you.